When I was 18, I walked through the gates of the Sri Radha Radhanath Temple for the first time. It was 1985. Apartheid still ruled South Africa.
The opening ceremony of the Sri Radha Radhanath Temple. One of the most exciting guests for the opening was the chief of the Zulu nation, Chief Buthelezi.
The magnificence of this temple and culture center, the spiritual awe that I felt as I walked into it, led by His divine grace, and the inspiration of deeply devoted people to the highest ideals of love that I've met, moves me, my brothers and sisters, to the very depths of my very being.
ISKCON knows no barriers. ISKCON is universal. ISKCON knows no country, make no distinction between countries, no distinction between groups, and no distinction between nations.
The message of the Gita, the message of an eternal religion, an eternal message, which has remained pure through thousands of years, which has no time, which has no place, but is a universal message.
That this body is simply a garment, just as we change clothes from day to day, that the body is simply being used by the soul. If we develop that genuine understanding, then there is no difficulty in you having a white coat, or he having a red coat, or me having a black coat. These distinctions no longer become such a dominant factor in one's life.
When I was 18, I walked through the gates of the Sri Radha Radhanath Temple for the first time. It was 1985. Apartheid still ruled South Africa, dividing people by law. And yet here in this place, something different happened. On the day of its opening, people of every race stood together beneath the domes. It wasn't politics, it wasn't protest. It was something higher, something older. I wasn't a devotee. I wasn't even a believer. But when I stepped inside, I felt a pull, like recognition. Not new, not foreign, but familiar. Like a song I had once known. From a young age, I leaned towards peace and chose food that caused no harm. I turned away from conflict because it always felt unnecessary. And so the temple mirrored back to me what I already carried. I didn't stay, I didn't surrender. But I returned again and again, as one returns to a well that quenches a thirst you can't explain. I didn't stay, I didn't join. But life took me into other places, into the big cities. I lived amongst the street kids who had nothing. I shared their hunger, I shared their dangers. Those years taught me more than books ever could. But it was the temple that had shown me something simple yet profound. Where food could be found, where those hungry kids could receive a hot place of rice and dole, given freely. For them, it was survival. For me, it was a quiet lesson that spirituality isn't only ritual. Sometimes it begins with a plate of rice and dole, a simple meal that step by step leads the soul back to its forgotten path. No judgment, no demand, just food. And that meal can plant a seed. Still, I did not join. I didn't avoid life. I lived it head on. I walked through fire and joy, through crowds and empty streets. And through it all, one question followed me. What is this life really for? Decades passed, 40 years. And each time I returned to Durban, I found myself at the temple gates. Not as a devotee, not as a stranger, but as one who remembers. Today I see it more clearly. This temple was never meant as an Indian religion planted in foreign soil. The founder's vision was wider, to break the weight of birth, caste, and hierarchy. To remind us that the soul is free, and the path home belongs to all. The other day I walked here in robes. Vishwami saw me. For a moment, only a moment, he faltered. Because sometimes recognition doesn't need words. It's in the eyes. It's in the silence between us. Robes do not make a monk. Recognition does. And perhaps that is why I keep returning. Not to convert, not to claim, but to remember. Because the soul does not arrive at places like this for the first time. It only finds its way back. And that is the gift of this temple after 40 years. It stands waiting for all who are ready to remember.
Here you have a simple man who's come and traveled the world doing this one thing, spreading, as he himself said, the glory of the Lord.